Now, of course, there are plenty of baits you can use when you go fishing for grey mullet, with bread probably being the most popular. But you can also use bits of ragworm, bits of lugworm. You can use small harbour ragworm. Maggots can be very good at times. And you can even use earthworms. And I've also heard of people catching mullet on bits of chicken or bits of meat. Because mullet, they are adaptable. They will adapt and feed on certain food sources that may not be necessarily a natural food source for them. And one thing they will definitely feed on is fish. Bits of fish. You get fish, dead fish, remains of fish thrown over harbour walls, and the mullet will pick at it and feed off of it. So today I've got a great bait for mullet, and that's mackerel. And it's one of those baits that I like to use, A, because it's good, and B, because it's very, very convenient, like bread. You just keep your mackerel in the freezer, and then when you're ready to go out fishing, of course you can take it out the freezer and off you go. No hassle in getting the bait. Now I've got this mackerel skinned, so we're just going to use the mackerel flesh, and the reason for that is that mullet can suck at a bait, so a nice soft bait, nice soft bit of mackerel flesh is absolutely ideal. So hopefully I'll be able to show you this mackerel flesh at least catching one mullet today. Well, this is the area that I'm going to be fishing today, and it's absolutely ideal for mullet fishing in the fact that it's very, very sheltered, being an estuary stroke harbour area, but also there'll be plenty of food for them. There'll be plenty of weed, plenty of algae clinging to the structures around the harbour estuary area for them to peck at and filter, and the bottom is going to be mainly mud and stones, and therefore they can filter the mud and filter out all the little crustaceans that live in the mud. But apart from that, there'll be other food sources. There'll be maybe not so natural food sources for them. For example, what people throw over the side on their boats when they're having lunch on their yachts. There'll be bits of bread going in the water. There'll probably be bits of meat and whatever going in that the mullet will adapt to and feed off. And of course there'll be some bit of fish that's turfed over the side here. We've got a few commercial fishing boats that will probably throw bits of fish overboard. And across on the harbour there is a fishmonger, and I'm sure lots of the remains of fish will go over the harbour wall. So they'll be used to eating fish there. So ideal, nice and calm, nice and sheltered, and plenty of food to attract the mullet in. For those of you that are interested in the tackle that I'm using, I've got a 11-foot waggler rod here, so a beautiful light rod. And on that I've got a 3000 size lure reel, and that's loaded with just 4 pound fluorocarbon, and it's 4 pound fluorocarbon all the way through. So I'm going to be float fishing today, so I've got a self-cocking float there which is just trapped between two shot, and then I've just got it at the moment just straight down to the hook, and the hook I've got a size 8 carp hook. I'm going to leave it shotless between the float and the hook, so that hopefully it will sink nice and slowly. And also here, particularly at the moment, I'm not fishing in very, very deep water. Later I might put some shot about a foot, 1.5 2 foot from the hook, if I feel I need to get the bait down quickly. Now, although there should be a few mullet moving through here anyway as the tide floods in, to try and attract a few more mullet, but mainly to get them turned on to feeding on fish and get plenty of fishy smells in the water, I've made up a ground bait here. So that ball you can see there is a mix of chopped up mackerel flesh, the chopped up guts of the mackerel, and some white breadcrumbs. But also in there I've got the heads of the mackerel, and of course the gills will have plenty of blood to ooze out, and the skin of the mackerel, which contains plenty of oils. So hopefully that will attract a few more in, and as I said, mainly to get them turned on to feeding on fish. Well, I've got some fantastic calm conditions at the moment, absolutely beautiful, with just a nice little drift as the tide is moving from my right to my left, just past this structure here, and beautiful drift, slow drift with the tide. And what I'm doing, I've cast it a little bit up tide and just going to let it drift down tide, and got my ground bait tied in the water here, and that's taking the scent to my left, and hopefully this float will just drift along here and get towards that scent trail. Well, it's not a mullet, it is a little bass. Well, after catching that little bass, I saw my first sign of mullet. Two reasonable sized mullet just cruised past here. So that's great, that's a good sign. Not seen them in any numbers, that's the only two I've seen, but they were a reasonable size. Well, I've had a bass, and now I've had a mackerel, and just need a mullet now. I've moved the ground bait to this side of the pontoon here. The wind is starting to pick up, so I've moved it to the sheltered side, and I've seen one or two more mullet move through. And what I'm trying to do now, I've lowered but they seem to be staying down a bit. I've lowered the pot down onto the bottom, and I've got a lot more depth now, and I'm fishing much deeper. And what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to keep my bait, as close as I can to the ground bait pot. So I'm able to do that better here. The other side, it's a bit too breezy, because this area here is where I've been seeing one or two mullet just moving into the pontoon here. Now, whether they're moving through or whether they're actually sitting under the pontoon here, maybe feeding off of the algae that sits underneath the pontoon, I'm not sure, but hopefully now I've started seeing one or two more mullet, I'll pick one up. The only trouble with mullet fishing, seeing them and catching them, are two different things. Okay, this is getting a bit frustrating. There's mullet down there, and I can see them going for the bits of mackerel, just sucking at it but not really taking it in. And so what I've decided to do, I've changed the hook, and I've put a much smaller hook on, just in case it is the hook that's putting them off, and see if I can get more of a commitment. It's a typical mullet fishing problem, and I've seen it so often when I've been fishing with bread, you can see them just pecking at the bait. They peck at it, but they won't. It's getting them to suck it in and commit to it. Very, very difficult to judge a strike when they're just pecking at a bait. Yes, at last. Well, that worked. It's by no means, it's only a tiny little mullet, but I'm not worried. It's just actually getting one. And I've well, only a baby, but never mind. Right, let's get it unhooked. Okay, we'll get it back. Give it a little chance to recover. Oh, these fish are so frustrating. But it's so rewarding when you get one, even if it is only a baby. They're hard enough to catch. And off it goes. Well, that's it. It's gone completely dead now. The mullet have completely disappeared. They were showing quite well when I caught that small one. Then a boat pulled in on the pontoon here and tied up to the pontoon, and then after that, there's absolutely been no sign of them, so I suspect that spooked them and they've disappeared. So the light's fading fast now, so I'm going to call it a day. Just be grateful that, as I always am when I come mullet fishing, to at least catch one. So once again, I hope you found that useful, and many thanks for watching.